which could easily happen if you have a lot of forced sale, which is not out of the question in Alberta. And realtors can't even hide behind the absolute lie, which I've said many times, which is non-recourse loans, because home loans here in Alberta are non-recourse loans, so people can walk away. Welcome to Airdrie, to this new construction community, which is absolutely insane, guys. To be honest with you, I cannot believe how many new builds they are throwing up all over Airdrie right now. But what I want to talk about specifically is this little community here, and you are not going to believe what is going on, the absolute insanity that is going on with people buying from out of province here in the Calgary area. Now, I'm in a little town called Airdrie, but if you drive north on 24th Street, you will see that they are building pretty much solid between Calgary and Airdrie right now. The two cities will be connected in a couple of years at this rate, but as you know, guys, this is a bubble just like other bubbles in Canada. It's just a little bit different because the price point is lower, but I'm going to talk about that and explain just how it's another speculative bubble, it's another speculative mania. It's just that Calgary's time is different to other markets. You're never going to have all markets in sync, although you did have that during the fear that came for a short-lived time in 2022 when they were raising rates. So one of these homes, single family homes, is going to cost you $800,000. That is absolutely crazy. There are people actively trying to rent out the houses. They are out of province buyers trying to rent out the homes for anything between $2,800 and $3,500 a month. Now, we're not even in Calgary. It would be tough to get those rents in Calgary. We're in Airdrie. The rental market, especially at the high end, when you're talking about single family homes, has been absolutely collapsing. It really has been. So we've seen rents that have gone down dramatically. So since the homeowners in this community bought these homes, they have just been chasing the rental market down, in effect. So they're having to drop the rent, even though I know for a fact they financed these homes, so they are completely upside down on their investment. The current yield, if you were able to get $3,400 a month, would be around 5.1% on an $800,000 home. And if you want to watch a video on exactly how to value a home, I will link one at the end of this video, and I would highly recommend that you go and watch that video. It's extremely important to understand how to actually value a home fundamentally without using your emotions. So obviously, if the yield on it is just over 5%, which is not correct because they're not going to get that. So let's say it's like the Canada average, which is around 4%, you know straight away that they are underwater, because if they finance that house at 6% interest rates, guys, they're negative 2% already. We haven't even chucked in property taxes, maintenance, and all the rest of it. And you know, these politicians talk about a lack of supply, which I think is completely insane. Guys, if you think there is a lack of supply in Alberta and the Calgary area, you've got your eyes shut, because you only have to drive around the outskirts of the city or any city surrounding Calgary, Cochrane, Airdrie, Chestermere, Okotoks, High River, to realize that they're building everywhere, guys. They are throwing up these homes everywhere. And the reality is there's not actually much buying that's going on. And most of the buying is coming from out of province investors, especially when it comes to townhomes and condos. And that's not because it's a great investment, guys. It's because these are the stupidest people. These are people who can no longer afford to speculate in Toronto and Vancouver, so they're coming here to Calgary. Because when you actually calculate the yield for properties across Canada, it doesn't vary much. It's between 4 and 4.2%. That is not much of a varied yield if you really think about it. With it just varying that little amount, you can tell that all the places are in a bubble, because as I said in the video that I'll link at the end of this one, if you're sub 5% in yield, that means you are in an extreme case of a housing bubble, because even in a rate environment that, let's say, you were getting a mortgage for 3%, you would still be underwater with just maintenance of 2% and the mortgage of 3%, you're still underwater. So it's just crazy. And these aren't strategies and ways of calculating that are really not simple. These are easy ways that people can understand. These are ways that millionaire real estate investors use. It was a strategy that was developed by Jason Hartman, and I just simplified it to make it easier to understand for most people because I believe it was overcomplicated. But people like George Gammon use it, Robert Kiyosaki. These are big time real estate investors, and you should know how to calculate whether a property is undervalued or overvalued. But anyway, guys, the size of these communities is unbelievable. All the way down Airdrie, you have just got land that is being developed ready. All this behind me is ready. These are all lots. And in fact, we'll have a quick walk up here because there's no shortage of land. If you look at the land up there, guys, that's pretty much what all the land is like in Alberta. There is just farmland, and a lot of it between Calgary and Airdrie is for sale for obvious reasons. There's drought concerns. There's not a lot of young people that are getting into farming these days. So a lot of farmers are looking to cash in and sell up their land. And it's no wonder because we're in this stupid bubble where land values are absolutely insane. I mean, guys, you just have to put it in the context of land to put yourself at ease if you have FOMO or anything like that, because politicians and real estate agents and all these people on YouTube like to focus on the fact of housing supply. Okay, that's not a problem. But anyways, let's pretend housing supply is a problem. So why are the prices so high then? It's because the land cost is so high. I mean, look at these lots, guys. This is a lot for a single family home right here between these two yellow poles. This is absolutely crazy. This is ridiculous in Canada. I mean, I saw the lots in Texas and Travis was telling me, you know, these are tiny lots, Luke. And I was saying, man, you need to come up here to Canada to see tiny lots because these are literally what we build everywhere. And we're the second largest country in the world. So in what world does it make sense that we're building on these absolutely tiny lots, essentially tiny homes? I mean, all these lots, guys, are just tiny. They're probably about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 square feet maximum. And they're just gonna have a single family home on these lots. So they are crazy small, and you only have to look around to realize there's no shortage of land. So why on earth are they building on these absolutely tiny lots? It's because land is in a bubble, just like housing is in a bubble. It's just that the politicians, the mainstream media, the realtors, the people on YouTube cannot hide behind the supply issue when you put it in the context of land. And I've been banging the table on this time and time again. You guys know it. I've been saying that supply is not the only issue driving this. It is completely ridiculous to think of it that way. When you're in a bubble, it is largely driven by emotion, and that's why I am trying to help people take the emotion out of buying a home and think about it logically. And just remember, guys, you don't have to have fear of missing out, because I have traveled and I know that there is real estate opportunities all over the world for anybody that wants them. So just because there's no real estate opportunities happening here in Canada doesn't mean that you can't buy an investment property somewhere else and make money. So just remember that, because a lot of people have this fear that they're going to be frozen out of the market forever. They're never going to own real estate. They're never going to have a chance to build wealth. And you just have to be logical in your thinking, really, when it comes to the valuation of houses. There is no lack of supply in Calgary. Everybody is talking about lack of supply across Canada like it's the story everywhere. It's really not. And it's based on your local market. I highly doubt that there is a lack of supply in Ontario too, because I lived in Ontario for many years. We moved to Alberta in 2018 and it's exactly the same. I saw in Ontario they were building like crazy. Development was absolutely insane. We lived in a place called Milton, which was in Ontario. Now Milton in Ontario was a nice little town, but it had become overrun with development. It's probably close to being connected with Mississauga right now, I would imagine, because the amount of development that goes on there is crazy. So anyway, the prices of these new construction homes, which are on absolutely tiny lots, are ridiculously high. They're higher than the used market. So that's part of the reason why people aren't buying them. These homes are starting to get price cuts and come down in price, but when when they're priced higher than you can buy a used home on the used market, you're going to buy the used home, especially when you get that home on a nicer, bigger lot. I mean, they're still not massive lots in Calgary. I mean, I just do not get it, guys. I mean, it's just so crazy when you think about the land bubble in Canada. You really just realize how insane it actually is that we have this going on, these lots that are absolutely tiny like this. But anyways, so that is part of the reason why there's not a lot of inventory, because a lot of the people who should be buying new homes are going to be buying in the used market, and most of the people that are buying in the used market are either out of province, they're moving to Calgary, or they're out of province investors. There's very little locals buying because locals can't afford to buy anymore. They've been frozen out the market. So that presents a huge problem for the future, because it means the market is extremely risky. I mean, the only reason why prices have really escalated throughout 2023 in Calgary is because of a lack of inventory. The market could easily flip if you have a lot of inventory come online, which could easily happen if you have a lot of forced sale, which is not out of the question in Alberta, and realtors can't even hide behind the absolute lie, which I've said many times, which is non-recourse loans, because home loans here in Alberta are non-recourse loans, so people can walk away if they're underwater. So that could happen. There are more and more layoffs that are happening everywhere, whether it's because of AI, whether it's because of the stagnating economy here in Canada. You're seeing more and more people get laid off. We just had a jobs report for January which showed that employment had increased. We had this blockbuster barn burner report, but as you saw from the video I did, that wasn't so true. It was a lot of part-time jobs that were added and full-time jobs actually vanished. The economy continues to get worse. The government figures, we can't even trust them anymore. And quite frankly, the development that is happening across the Calgary area once again just screams bubble. And it might be a smaller bubble than those bubbles in Toronto and Vancouver, but it's a bubble nevertheless, because actual people cannot afford to buy a home here in Calgary. So anyway, if you're looking for a VPN to get around Trudeau's censorship laws, go to expressvpn.com/market mania, and I would highly recommend that you check out this video right here, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.